Welcome back to the review realm. Once again, we have another album review for you. If you are new to the review realm, please hit the like button on this, subscribe to the show. It really helps us out with our album reviews. Like I said, we got another one for you. And as always, joining me is the other half of the review realm of these album reviews, EP reviews, and what have you. Sam, the SLV.
Hey guys, it's a loaded week and we're not done. So this is going to be an interesting one. I have a feeling.
I think so too, Sam. Of course, we are talking about album number 10 for this band. Of course, we are talking about Atreyu, and I think this is their first album in at least 3 years or so. The end is not the end. Did you know that, Sam?
Uh, yeah, it seemed like it. This is a band when I saw, oh, we're doing Atreyu. In my head, I gotta make a confession here. I don't think I've ever listened to a full Atreyu album.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so this is the first. So I was like, oh, this band's still around. All right. So the end was obviously not the end in that case.
No, it was not. And despite despite a minor lineup change, I think 6 years ago for this band, they're still going. They're still putting out albums. This is, I think, the third album now with the change that they
hmm
did. So, Sam, if you didn't know this, they had another singer named Alex. They had two vocalists pretty much. They
Yep.
had Alex and Brandon. Alex left the band, so now it's Brandon primarily doing vocals, pretty much
I
on
did
this.
see that. I did do some research on this.
Yeah.
So,
I'm gonna get to that a little bit later, but let's get into the album. Of course, the end is not the end. It's a bunch of singles on this, four different singles. I I love these, most of these, I should say. I thought Dead was excellent. All For You is another great one. The one I thought was the weakest, probably the weakest, is Ego Death. I feel like it tries too hard, and I don't really care for that one. Children of Light I thought was quite interesting. I love Max Cavalera, as we just talked about Sepultura in the last one. He adds to songs, he never brings them down. Um, and I really liked these singles, I would say, for the most part.
so two things. It's ironic that we're reviewing this as we this week have reviewed Sepultura's last EP and Max is on this. So I want to say that's that. I didn't check out the singles. I just listened to the album start to finish. So let me ask you something because this is the first time I've ever listened to them. How similar is this album to their previous or their what we say their top work? Like, is this a similar sound or is the sound definitely changed?
I would say it's pretty similar for the most part. I think having Brandon in there as a vocalist still really ties it to the older material. Um,
hmm
and I think it's maybe it's more simplistic, I think, than their previous material, since essentially they're down a writer from who they had
Yeah.
before. But overall, this is I personally think it's pretty much what the band has sounded like since they've been around for the most part.
Okay. This is what I'm going to get at here, and I know I'm beating around the bush, and it's like Bizarro week here at the Review Realm. Somebody who is always pleased and always finds joy in whatever we listen to. I did not enjoy this. There was one song off this album I enjoyed, and the reason I bring this up, I saw metalcore, and I'm like, to me, I've never listened to Atreyu, so it's like, oh, it's a metalcore band, and I'm thinking Killswitch Engage, I'm thinking All That Remains, I'm thinking Shadows Fall, and it sounded a little more of an alternative. I don't want to use the word poppy because that's kind of an insult, but a very an alternative sound to it. And I was just waiting for something to click, and for some reason, only one song I liked off this album, "Ghosted Me."
Ghost in Me, yeah, Brandon always has had the capability, I think, to do all the vocals. It was really heavy and slow on that one. Sam, I don't think this album is
hmm
bad, but I definitely think um there's definitely low points on this. I don't think
hmm
this is a solid album all the way through. I think the singles are a high point, Um,
Mhm.
and a lot of the songs, the other ones are eh. Like I thought Death Rattle, I was like, yeah, I was like, I don't know how, I don't really, not really crazy about this. And they had some dumb lyric before the solo on there, which I was like, what is this? Um, and I don't know. I feel like it ends the album fairly decently with Break the Glass. But I think by the point of Afterglow, I was kind of done with the album for the most
Okay.
part.
So you would say this is more, this was kind of, I don't want to say we're on the same page, but like it more less so I don't care for it. More so on your end you're like, it's all right.
Yeah, I think this is all right. I think the singles, like I said, Dead and All For You, I think are really solid songs. On this, it really feels like it feels like what the band is all about,
Mhm.
pretty much. While the rest of the album, I don't think encapsulates that uh, totally well. They've had decent albums. The last album was good. I thought Baptized was pretty well. The only thing they did recently that was not good was when they re-recorded probably their best album, The Curse, and
Mhm.
the re-recording was awful. They haven't even acknowledged it uh, since then. So I think the band still has it in them a little bit, but I mean, not quite where they were before.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I can go back and recheck some of the old stuff, but there was definitely I have like a I don't want to say a love-hate relationship. I'll say love-hate relationship with, most people regard the 2000s, anyone who grew up during that time. There's a lot that people recall and reminisce, and they love this and emo music. And for me, it's always just like, I didn't care for half the music. So I was concerned. And again, I have no problems going back and revisiting their discography. But I was concerned listening to this album, like, oh, this is going to sound like everything else that I listened to. I did not like 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah, I think this is an okay album. I know this is Spine Farm Records, about 45 minutes, so not super long.
Hmm.
But 13 songs, so I think it was the length was decent. Um, this is what I'll say to close it out because it's kind of the same. I hear a lot of the same complaints that we just talked about this with Sepultura. Oh, this band's not the same since Alex left. To an extent, yes. I don't think the writing is the same, and I definitely think it's been kind of gone down, but not like a huge slope down. I will say this: they had two vocalists. One of them left. They still have one of them,
Hmm.
so they still sound like them. You
Yeah.
can't you can't take that away. I feel like they still sound like Atreyu with Brandon behind the vocals. Um, and they're still putting out decent material, so I don't want to hear Alex left it 6 years ago. I don't want to hear that it's not been the same since.
Yeah. It's going to happen. Are there going to be ones I don't think we reviewed their album. My favorite band, Dream Theater, they lost their drummer for 10 years, almost 15 years, Mike Portnoy, and then he came back. And I think as a fan, I still enjoyed the music. I'm like, dang, you can definitely tell there's a change, but I'm like, I still enjoy what they do. And they came back and they put out a solid album, I think. So guess what? Might come back, or yeah, they'll still put out good stuff, guys. It's not the end of the world. Pink Floyd's another one that comes to mind. We could have an episode just on this, but I won't go too much deep into that.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I agree to an extent, but it's still them. And obviously they're continuing to do what they do and with this album, etc. But please let us know in the comments section why we are wrong about this album. Let us know what you think, please, of Atreyu's 10th album. I'm sure, they said it themselves. The end is not the end. Right, Sam?
Yeah, exactly. Cool cover though, I will say.
Yeah, yeah, I did enjoy it. So that's pretty much our thoughts on the album. Thanks for joining us, guys, as always. And of course, do not forget to join the Bedlam.